Okay, we're live on YouTube, and you may begin whenever you're ready, Karen.
Okay. Well, welcome everybody who is with us tonight for this 2021 Hunters Woods Dogwood listening session, which we are doing virtually. We had planned to do these in person, but with the spike in the Delta variant, we had second thoughts and decided to err on the safe side and do this virtually. I, for one, can't wait till we have in-person meetings again. But the reality is this pandemic is still with us. So here we go virtually. So I'm Karen Anton. I am a Hunters Woods Dogwood District Director and also RA President. Let me go through who else is on this call tonight. As far as board members and staff goes, we have Larry Butler, who was our acting CEO and our COO. We have board member wise, we have Bob Petrine, who is an at-large director and our treasurer. We have Tim Dowling, at-large director. And do we have anybody else yet? I will announce them as they join, though. And from staff, we have Cam Adams, our Director of Covenants. We have Mike Leone, our Communications Director. And we have Sean Barami, our Media Manager, who is our Tech Director tonight. And I believe that's all I see, and several familiar names of constituents. So I'm very happy to have you here tonight. So this is a listening session, and we are going to stick to that. This is all about hearing from you. This is not about us talking at you. We will have a few things to say at the beginning, but the rest of this is for you to let us know what's on your mind. Things that you think we're doing well, things that you think we could improve on, anything else you might want to talk about. This is your chance. So after we go through some things that we want to go through, I ask that you utilize the raise hand feature on your Zoom console. I assume everybody knows how to do that now. And I will keep that participant list up so I can see and call on you. I will do my best to call on you in the order that you have spoken. I'd like to keep your comments to 3 minutes. You're welcome to speak twice, but I will call on you a second time only if there is nobody else who hasn't spoken yet, just to be fair to everybody. So this is the third of our 5-member listening sessions. The North Point and the Lake Ann Tall Oaks have already taken place. And on September 30th will be the South Lakes listening session led by our South Lakes District Director, Jennifer Juszczak. And on October 4th will be our final one, which is the at-large listening session, which will be conducted by our at-large directors, Tim Dowling, Bob Petrine, Tom Mulcairn, and Sarah Salvarez de Sousa. But you are not restricted to only attend the listening session for your district. Anybody could attend tonight. Anybody can attend the South Lake session on the 30th, and of course, the at-large session will be open to the whole community as well. So let me see what else I have to touch on here. Let me get my cheat sheet. Okay, so the first thing that we're going to talk to you about before we close our mouths and listen to you is managing our open space, which is always at the top of everybody's list, just because of who we are in Reston and how important our open space is to that. So for that portion, I am going to turn things over to Larry Butler.
Why, thank you, Karen, and welcome everybody. Great to see so many people on to give us some feedback on some of those things that we're doing, or many of those things. I just want to talk a couple of minutes about, sort of managing our open spaces. We've come out of, well, we're not even out of it, but a year and a half of unusual times. One that we saw more people in our facilities and common areas than I think ever before. It's evidenced by the number of people walking, boating, stand-up paddleboarding, biking. I mean, for a long time, it was hard to even get a bike at a local bike shop. So it's really encouraging to see that. I think a lot of people discovered parts of Reston that they may have never been to before. They live on the south, maybe they ventured north, vice versa, just to check out what Reston has. Then that really was our pathways, our lakes, our ball fields, our picnic areas, and the natural areas. So it was great to see people out enjoying that. Of course, it also, impacted us as well. We had a lot more trash on the pathways, with empty trash cans more frequently, more staff to that. That's just one of the byproducts, I think, of that higher use. But again, it's really positive to see people out discovering what it has to offer. And that's 1,300 acres of open space. And we own about 10% of the property in Reston, not including what's in the Dulles corridor. So, it's a fair chunk of land that we have, and our pathways and facilities intersperse all of that. Some of the current challenges we're having, though, and you've probably read about this, is finding staff. It's a very competitive market out there. And so we're doing our best to, maintain the staff that we have and bring on new staff as we have those positions open. Another thing that we felt really this year, but also prior, is weather events. Rain, drought. We had periods of drought as well. High winds, and that puts our arborist crew and our cleanup crews out getting debris off our facilities and pathways and so forth, and keep them safe. That recent rainfall a couple of weeks ago, we had a bridge lifted up and moved about 20 yards downstream. It has since been replaced and solidified in that location, but that kind of tells you the power of the water coming through some of our watersheds. We continue to monitor the water quality in our lakes. We've taken a very proactive approach this year to that, particularly on Lake Throw. I actually commented this morning about how amazing Lake Throw looks, and for those of you who paid attention last year, wasn't quite the same last year. So we're happy that the approach we've taken has been successful this year. And then a couple of interesting projects are underway that actually are in the Hunters Woods Dogwood area in part. The U.S. Geological Survey is beginning a long-term stream monitoring program in the Glade and Snake Den Branch watersheds to really advance the science and benefit of urban stream restoration. And for those of you who perhaps know, or if you don't, Reston Association embarked really back in the early 2000s, and construction started in 2008. One of the biggest urban stream restoration projects in the country. It's been very, very successful. And I should add, at no cost to the membership, because it was paid by a mitigation bank. But this is a really interesting project to look at not only the chemistry, but the flow regime of those watersheds after the stream restoration work and after all the replanting and so forth. And the second project that's pretty cool is the College of William and Mary, assisted by George Mason of Virginia Tech, starting a research project on managing non-native invasive plants in mitigated wetlands and stream restoration areas. So Reston is an excellent candidate site for that kind of research, and that is just being started here. They're out looking at field sites for the test plots and things like that. So it's pretty exciting to be to have open spaces that can kind of drive science the way Reston has kind of driven planning for all these years. So with that, I'm happy to answer any questions. I promised Karen I'd keep it short, and we did.
Thank you, Larry. I don't see any hands raised yet. If you have any questions or comments on anything Larry just talked about, or anything else that pertains to open space, now would be a good time. I see Julie Doherty.
Thank you, Karen.
Hello, Julie.
Hi, Larry. How you doing?
I'm doing fine, Julie.
So one of the open spaces I didn't hear you talk about yet is our wonderful Hunters Woods ball field repurposing. And as you know, that's been a project of mine for over 5 years. Been engaged with you guys for about 4 on that. And understand the challenges of the last year and a half, but we're not getting anywhere on that. So we'd like to know what is happening, is going to happen, or is not going to happen.
Well, I can give you some detail on that. The site plan is in with Fairfax County right now. And we are working actually through Walter's office on the final review of that. There were some questions put up by the reviewer with respect to the bioretention area. And our engineers have questioned that. And so just last week, I've got Jose from Walter's office looking into that for us.
Okay.
Because we need to know if we're going to have to build the detention area or not to go out to bid and get pricing on doing that. And so we're waiting for the site plan to be approved. We hope that comes in, within the next handful of weeks. And then we can get some accurate pricing on doing that work. We have put in to the capital CARF, as a capital asset acquisition reserve fund, for the board's consideration, some additional funding to carry that project forward. And that's something, the board has seen in their packets. It went out on Friday, and we'll hear about that on Thursday night as well. So that's kind of the update. We're trying to keep it moving, but it was interesting because the site plan for Lake Throw Pool, as an example, which is much more complicated, right on the lake, lots of other stuff going on, that got approved in less time than the Hunters Woods ball field. So it's a bit frustrating, and unfortunately, we don't have control over the county review process.
So appreciate that, Larry. So you can understand some of the dialogue, that we have with our folks is, why does something that's millions of dollars go through you? And we've been working this for 4 or 5 years. So, and I know you guys are trying hard, and we certainly appreciate that, but it's, a very little small area that, it feels unnecessarily complicated, but I know you don't control that.
We're doing our best to keep it moving forward as good a clip as possible.
Yeah, Julie, we're as frustrated as you are, believe me. This latest delay we did not anticipate, and we're doing everything we can to work with Supervisor Alcorn's office to get things moving. Maybe just at the mercy of a new reviewer or something like that, but yes, it is being presented in this budget. I am making sure of that. I told Larry, I said, this is going to get started. This is going to get started in 2022.
So is that what it is, the 2022 budget?
Well, it was the 2022-23 budget, yeah. And
Okay.
Since we're in, mid-September already, it's probably not feasible to think anything's going to happen in 2021 on it.
Right. And then I know you and I talked about that, Karen. I mean,
Yeah.
It's getting darker earlier every day. So
Rest assured, I was going to bring it up had you not. So, and I see Andy Siegel put in the chat what this repurposing is all about, and not to take up too much time, Andy, but I will respond by saying this is something that has been in the works for even before my board time, I think. But as soon as I got on the board, I started working with some of the stakeholders in the community and Larry to repurpose this unused ball field that used to be used as a ball field, but because of its distance from the parking lot, the teams were not using it because it was just not practical to schlep all their equipment from the parking lot to the ball field. So it became sort of a magnet for loitering and littering. And so we started working on the idea of repurposing it, along with the Hunters Woods Neighborhood Coalition. And we have a preliminary design that has passed the design review board, and we're working with the landscape architects and are very excited how it's going to look, but it's a slow process. And it's also something that Julie, for those of you who don't know, is the board president at the Hunters Woods Village Condominiums, which sort of borders a good part of this ball field. So it's a high priority for them, as well as other people in the area, the residents at the Fellowship House. So
Trails Edge.
what we're at, yeah, Trails Edge, and what we're envisioning is something that's going to attract people from all over, not just the immediate area. That will be a really nice park with some really nice features, a pathway all around it, an educational piece, some garden aspect to it. But we just need to be patient. Andy, does that answer your question, I hope? And anybody else on that? Okay.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Julie. Thank you for being here. I don't see any other hands raised, so I'm going to talk briefly
Aaron,
about, yeah.
I believe there's a question by Jordan Fletcher in the chat.
Oh, sorry, Jordan. Let me see. I'm going to find it. Okay. Okay, Jordan, yeah, Fletcher says regarding staffing for open area maintenance, has anyone looked into what it would take to try and poll for volunteers, particularly for some communal/infrequent activities like clearing trail paths, picking up litter, etc.? I would imagine there are a lot of service organizations and motivated individuals in our community who could help out on a weekend or two during the year. Already happening, Jordan. We have, there you are, Ha Brock, who is our volunteer coordinator, manager, director with art, does a fantastic job of getting her long list of volunteers to come and do cleanup days for us throughout the year. And we have done it more than once in Hunters Woods. We did one a few months ago that Andy was involved in helping to organize, working with Dogwood Elementary School in the Dogwood area of Hunters Woods, Dogwood. And I believe there's another one, he's talking to Ha about doing another one. So yes, we get some of the environmental clubs, kids from South Lakes involved, and scout troops, and that is something that's ongoing. And if you're interested in knowing more about that, email ha@reston.org.
Well, that's great, Karen. What I was getting at was, when
Did I
there's
misunderstand your comment? I'm sorry.
Well, no, you got it. My comment was on Larry's comment that we're having problems staffing some of that work, and what he brought up were the increased trash collection and stuff like that. It just it seemed like these were tasks that could be done by volunteers, and that if we were polling for volunteers maybe more often, or trying to schedule things in like that might help alleviate some of that staff shortage in the near
Yeah,
term.
I mean, our staff, I think they're on like a 3-day-a-week schedule for trash collection. And depending on what's going on event-wise and whatever in some of these areas, that's not often enough. So, we do encourage the community, as we said in our video a few months ago, just encourage the members, take a plastic bag with you. While you're out walking, pick up some of those empty water bottles and stuff. It takes a village, but we do have quite a robust volunteer effort that Ha leads along with members of the community, and we also work with the Fairfax County Police Crime Prevention Unit, Officer Defoe and Officer Harita. They get involved with us on that. So we can't do enough of that, and we also. We have our environmental advisory committee working on litter projects as well. Tim, who's on that committee, is nodding his head, I see. So, does that answer your question, Jordan, pretty much? Great, thank you. Any?
Karen,
Yeah,
we also have a question from Rick Hamilton, and he's asking, where are you on hiring a new IT director?
that would be a Larry Butler question.
We have an ad, it's up on our website, so we're taking applicants. So, I mean, that's really where we're at. There's no other answer than that at this point. So it's an active recruitment.
Yeah.
Karen, we also have another question from Andy. Do you have an update on the pathway lighting initiative near Hunters Woods Village Center along the RA pathways? Is that in the same county application as the Hunters Woods Ball Field repurposing project or something different?
It is not in the same application. And I know that we had hired a consulting firm, a lighting consulting firm, and I believe their findings are going to be presented to DRB tomorrow night, Larry, is that right?
It's not their finding, they're just started with their engagement. So they're coming to present to the DRB some of their initial thoughts and sort of their process. They have, done a couple of visits at night to some of our pathway areas. And so they're gonna, share their initial findings and ideas with the DRB tomorrow night. Unfortunately, it's late in the agenda, so it could be kind of late, but that is our intent.
But those are recorded, so people can watch them on YouTube after the fact. And yeah, I know that this has been a frustration for you, Andy, for a long time, as well as many others in the community. There are so many people who want to give their input on the proper way to go about getting lighting done so that it accomplishes what it needs to accomplish and still be environmentally responsible. So those are the balls that we've been trying to juggle for quite a while, and hopefully we're going to up the pace on this sooner rather than later. I mean, does that pretty much say it, Larry? Do you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, that's it.
Any other hands or comments?
There are more comments, Karen, from Julie Doherty. Can you
Yes.
talk some about the Hunters Woods Neighborhood Coalition and what we do?
Sure. The Hunters Woods Neighborhood Coalition was started by the good folks at Cornerstones about, trying to think, maybe 6 or 7 years ago now, I think. And it was organized for the purpose of making Hunters Woods Village Center and its surroundings more welcoming, safer, etc. So we have not met in quite a while due to the pandemic. We're probably overdue to meet, but we had been meeting quarterly, and we are represented on that, and the folks from Cornerstones and all the stakeholders, Trails Edge and Hunters Woods Village condominiums and the Glades condominiums and Fellowship House, and the folks from the property manager, owner and manager, Edens, over the who own and manage the actual village center. Of course, the community, Lila Gordon and other folks from the community, people from the church, and merchants are always invited. Unfortunately, they don't show up very often because they're running their stores. So in these meetings are sometimes during the day. That's what we do. We try to address various issues that are before us in the community, whether they be things like repurposing the ball field, cleanup projects, And any other issues to keep it a thriving, welcoming, safe place? Did you have anything to add to that, Julie, or did I pretty much cover it?
That's good, Karen. Thank you for that. You know, when folks are talking about volunteers, that's in the Hunters Woods district area. It's a real big group of volunteers that do a lot of different things. We've been, I think, quite successful. We partner with the police on security issues and things like that, but it's led in our particular association, it's led to a closer relationship with folks like Karen from RA and folks from the police. We now have a neighborhood watch. We do National Night Out. We have a great time at that. So it's about people staying engaged and helping out. You know, we do cleanup efforts. It's all about making the community a better place.
Thank you, Julie. Yes, and the meetings are open to any member of Hunters Woods Dogwood. So check out their website to see when the next meeting is going to be. I don't happen to know that right now, but
I don't either. I think we missed one in there.
well, and Cornerstones is very involved in their 50th anniversary events. So I suspect we'll be meeting again before too long. It would be good.
Thanks, Karen.
Thanks for bringing that up. That was an oversight on my part. Okay, any other comments or hands up before I move on to another topic?
There are some other questions, Karen, if you want me to keep going down the list. And there is a follow-up question from Rick Hamilton. Can the IT committee help identify or screen candidates? Maybe that's a question for Larry.
Yeah, well, the IT committee has yet, it's kind of a interesting situation. We don't have an IT director, nor do we have a chair for that committee at this point. So they have not met yet. So I don't know, I'm not sure I can answer that question to your satisfaction, Rick. Typically hiring, as you well know, is it's an internal matter. It's at the CEO's discretion. So just say that.
Karen, there is
I'm seeing him now. Yeah, I've got him up
Okay.
on my screen, Mike.
Okay.
The next question was from Mo Ferguson. I read that RA may have been part of an IT breach. Can you provide any additional information on that? There has been stuff out in on Reston now and at our own board meetings about this. So yes, we did have an IT breach. It was rapidly corrected. Contrary to what was in the Reston Now article, it did not cost the association $187,000. We had insurance for that, and it just cost us our deductible, which was $10,000. I'm not sure how much more I can say at this point because we're actually in the process of engaging with a communications firm to assist our in-house communications department to put out the appropriate message to the public. But since it's already out there, yes, there was an incident. It was not a huge, terrible thing. There was really only one member affected by it. That person is no longer a member. All the our IT director at the time, Clara William, took all the necessary steps to make sure that we had a much more secure environment. Is there anything else that we can say about that at this time, Larry?
No members' information whatsoever was breached in any way.
Yeah. So, yeah, it happened. It's been fixed. there's really no need for any kind of alarm or panic. These things happen to companies all the time. And it wasn't any worse than things that you hear about happening. And, you know, like you or I getting hacked. It did come with a price tag, but not the huge price tag that has been put out there by some folks. So I hope that answers Mo Ferguson's question. Okay, also from Mo Ferguson, there is a new townhome complex going up on Sunrise Valley next to the Herndon Monroe Metro. It doesn't look like it will have retail. Is there anything we can do at this point to encourage the developer to include retail in their site plan? That's another Larry Butler question.
Yeah, there is no retail in that site plan, Mo. It's been approved. They've broken ground, and Pulte will not revisit that. I have had conversations. They will. I'm fairly certain they will become RA members. And that's something we're discussing with them at this point, which is something I talked with them about about 2.5 years ago when they first started conceptualizing that project. There will be no retail.
No retail, okay.
No retail.
Okay. All right, from Lynn Brown. Can we talk about privacy? Although I imagine Lynn says privacy. Right, Lynn? Can we talk about privacy and members' protection? At the moment, it seems that members' information is made fully available when they want to speak or file a DRB application. This is a long way towards identity theft and potentially makes older, particularly female members, vulnerable. What steps does RA take to maintain the confidentiality? Sorry, keep slipping here. To maintain the confidentiality of our information. Happy to ask this in the meeting. Had you submitted this in advance? Okay. Well, I'm unfortunately, our general counsel, I don't think is on the call, but I mean, he can speak to the reasons that we need you to state your name and address when you make a member comment, for example, at meetings, and on the DRB application. I'm not really prepared to answer this very intelligently. Larry, if you can add anything.
Okay, maybe I can just add, I mean, it goes beyond your name and address. So, I mean, I was required, 2 sets of neighbors who did not answer the door or sign the application, who were not immediate neighbors. I was required to send the full packet of information by certified mail. So that's my name, my email address, my phone number, which I declined to do. I only sent them a letter saying, hey, you want to object to this? This is where you email. And then when we did the full-face DRB meeting, everybody's application form was put on screen, giving all that information. So as a result, I declined to go on screen to actually present my application because, to me, I mean, people may think I'm paranoid, but I'm a former police officer. So I have seen the crimes where people's information is made public and it is used. So to me, to reveal myself as an older woman who potentially lives alone because it's the only name on a DRB application, and to give you my phone number and to give you my email address really does seem a step too far. So, I've come to board meetings and I've declined to give my house number when I've made a comment because, I am living in an HOA, not in a commune. And I have a right to try to protect my own security. And I do expect Reston to respect that right.
Thank you, Lynn. Actually, Cam, are you still on the call? Yes, you are. Perhaps you can speak to this? I don't want to put you on the spot, but
No, it's okay.
I can. Yeah, I would. I was gonna say, good, this would be a good one for Cam to address.
In terms of the DRB, I think that there's a lot of concern from members as it relates to sharing that information. And the one thing that I can share as the person who oversees the covenants department is that if there is a concern related to that, we can most certainly take steps to address individual cases of those concerns. But large and whole, our legal counsel has advised us of what our process should be and what the DRB requires. And so until that legal counsel advice changes, we will have to continue to operate in the way that we're operating. But I will say, if you do have a concern about privacy or concerns about your information, we will make every effort to take steps to address your individual concerns.
Thank you, Cam.
Okay. And I hear you about that, Lynn, I really do. As an older woman who is single, and I won't say anymore because I don't want to jeopardize my privacy. Anyway, Rick, why can't we choose an IT committee chair? We are in that is in the works, and hopefully we will have an IT chair by October. Okay, that was a thank you from Mo. Kathy Newsom, what's the current status of the potential grade separated interchange at Fairfax County Parkway and Sunrise Valley Drive? This is something that the Comprehensive Plan Task Force is working on. I don't believe there is anything to report at this time. It's being dealt with there. Larry, as an alternate member of that task force, I know if John Mooney were with us tonight, he could speak more to that. But
And actually, I think Mark Malcolm.
and Mark is on with us tonight too. Can perhaps
he might be able to shed some light. But you're right, Karen. It's being considered through the Comprehensive Plan Task Force, and and there's been a comprehensive study done within the last 2 or 3 years regarding the Parkway and the interchanges. And I know there's some concern about what that will look like and what will the direct impact be on the Polo Fields neighborhood. I've had a couple conversations with some of the FC DOT staff. I indicated to them that there's at the corner of Sunrise Valley Drive and Fairfax County Parkway, right at the corner, they may have some flexibility because we do have some common area on the other side directly across, where a slight realignment of the ultimate interchange location, not that I'm offering up the RA property, but certainly it could come into play perhaps with a minor realignment to help protect some of the properties on the Polo Field side. So that's where I know it's at. Mark, I don't know if you want to chime in a little bit on that.
With that, I've been disengaged for the last couple of weeks, actually being on a wonderful vacation status, so I'm catching up on documentation. But as members of Polo Fields are well aware, right now, VDOT has had no indication of any realignment with respect to either the RA property, with respect to the T-Mobile property, to get that alignment. But what they had indicated once in the meetings that you participated in, Larry, was having the Sunrise Valley go under Fairfax County Parkway. The real issue that I don't think Kathy is really asking is, how will RA interact for the interests of Polo Fields RA members should there be an eminent domain issue come up?
Yes.
And particularly impacts a number of streets within Reston. It
Yes.
isn't just the GSI. It is also a separate project that I've been asking Shamley House under Supervisor Alcorn is also dealing with the off-road bikeway on Sunrise Valley at some point. Right now, that's actually more in the immediate future of the next 5 years, where the GSI is a 20 to 30 years away unless conditions deteriorate so rapidly that they are forced to find the funding. I think that puts perspective bit into that. There had been a proposal through the task force that may not be in any way adequate, was to address with Polo Fields with the Fairfax County Parkway project to get to lay out what they were doing with that, but I can't really answer more. I hope that
Throws up,
gives
Mark.
a flavor of things.
Thanks, Mark. And as you know, we are in the process, John Mooney and the rest of us are working to get a meeting scheduled with you all and hopefully someone from a contact that John has made at VDOT, so to talk about.
But that has a direct impact with at least 2 homes, almost any which way you cut it
Yes.
with the GSI directly, and has potential for another 12. But then when you deal with sound walls on Fairfax County Parkway, it's a number of other streets. And then when you deal with all the entire length of Sunrise Valley for dealing with the bikeway, that project has been on hold by FCDOT for any public discussion for nearly 3 years. And yet they are closer to having the engineering design done without public discussion. And that's a concern very directly that I've been pressing for the HMTAC that it be addressed fully at its next meeting, which is in October.
Thank you, Mark. I appreciate all that up-to-date information. And I would just second Mark's question about how much the Reston Association is going to support the issues that affect the Polo Fields neighborhood.
Specifically eminent domain related issues.
Well, eminent domain, there's, as you know, Mark and others, it kind of is what it is. And we can certainly spend a bunch of insurance doesn't cover, us hiring an attorney to fight eminent domain. So there'll be a fair amount of resources out of the membership pockets to fight that. And, my experience with eminent domain for highway projects, which is somewhat limited, I grant you, is that it is an extremely steep uphill battle. And so to the extent that the RA board wants to engage and spend the resources to fight that, that's ultimately their decision. And I know that's probably something you're after, but until there's more specifics, it's a hard thing to judge.
Well, yeah, if this is 20 years away, I understand that. But if everybody waits until it's all decided, then it's too late to make minor adjustments that could be a big deal. We're talking about 12 people losing their homes. So it's not insignificant to the people it affects and to the neighborhood around it. Will completely change the character of that neighborhood.
Specifically the 3 or 4 streets that are impacted in that area.
Yes.
I don't disagree.
Well, it doesn't sound like the Resident Association is either interested in or able to do much about it at this stage to steer the design away from those homes.
Well, as I said, we're hoping, and Karen noted, we're trying to get a meeting specifically with FCDOT to discuss that and look at, where they are with the design so everybody's on the same page.
Okay, well, I'd appreciate it if you'd keep us up to date. There are a lot of people in Fuller Fields who are concerned about it.
We are aware of that, Kathy, and just know that we will do everything we can.
Okay, thank you.
Any other comments? If there's no other hands or comments at the moment, I want to, Andy, you still with us? A little bit. Yes, he is. I want to give Andy Siegel a few minutes. For those of you who don't know, Andy is a past RA president, and before that, a board member for many years. And I asked him to hop on tonight to talk about a working group that he and I and others in the community participated in over the past several months with members of Supervisor Alcorn's office, specifically about the Glade Pinecrest intersection. And some of the concerns that the community had about that because of all the traffic from Dogwood Elementary School and Southgate Community Center. So, Andy, thank you for your patience. And if you wouldn't mind just giving a brief update to the folks on what that working group was all about and what some of the recommendations were.
Sure. Thank you for having me on. So yes, as Karen mentioned, I was part of the Pinecrest Road Glade Drive working group. That working group was led by Jose Decled and Shamali Hoth from Supervisor Alcorn's office. But it really arose from a grassroots effort from a number of the local entities. For example, the Pinecrest cluster, Southgate Community Center, Dogwood Elementary School, Reston Association, and the Fairfax County Police Department. We all, there were some concerns about that area, and as an offshoot of the Reston Comprehensive Plan update, the decision was made to form a small working group to take a look in a little more detail just at that intersection of Glade and Pinecrest. I'm working over with Dogwood Elementary School as a part-time family liaison, so I represented Dogwood Elementary's interests. And again, there was a number of clusters involved in Southgate Community Center, RA, Fairfax County Police Department, etc. Some of the things that we were concerned about is just at that intersection, there is some speeding going on. There's some parking issues at the bump out there. Pinecrest was originally slated back in the day to go south of Glade Drive, and because it never went through, and at this stage, there's still a bump out there at the south side of the intersection, and there's a number of cars that end up parking there and cause some difficulties for pedestrians and some safety issues, especially for school crossings and children crossing over to get to Southgate Community Center. So again, those are some of the issues that we were looking at. How do we make that safer? How do we make there's a bunch of litter issues going on, et cetera, even with the bump out area where, old abandoned cars have been parked there, et cetera. So the group came together. We talked through, various issues, various potential fixes. And what we ended up with was a one-page kind of white paper that we put together describing our thoughts of what different project areas could be that we've submitted into the Reston comp plan and via Jose Decled and Shamali Hoth from Supervisor Alcorn's office. Our first recommendation, and again, these were just recommendations to the county, FCDOT, BDOT, and then hopefully to get also into the comp plan for a little extra heft. But the recommendations we had were first just to add a 3-way stop there. So right now, there's a stop if you're coming south on Pinecrest, but the Glade Drive, there's no stop signs there, and cars kind of shoot through there. So we recommended a 3-way stop there at the intersection of Glade and Pinecrest. We also, and there's some others, but I'm gonna go over the highlights. We also recommended that the bump out kind of be taken out, either with concrete bollards to kind of put it along the curb line there on the south side of Glade, or just extend the curb, fill in that area that is asphalt right now, and then extend the RA pathway that comes out of Pinecrest cluster to the southwest side of that intersection, where there is an ADA accessible crosswalk that comes to it, but at the moment it doesn't go anywhere, it just ends. So it would be really difficult. If you did take a wheelchair across there and went up there, you would just end up in the woods. So we wanted that extension of the RA path. So we described that bump out to be removed and a fill in there so that the pathway can be extended to the crosswalk. We've talked about a little bit about extending a no parking area on the southwest side of that intersection down Glade, because it's very difficult for a pedestrian to see when there's so many cars parked right along there and they come right up to the intersection. And then we also suggested some parking on the opposite side, on the southeast side, which currently no parking, to take up some of the parking needs that would still be there. And then several sidewalk recommendations, like to get up Pinecrest through the bus stop to all the way to Southgate Community Center, such that you can reconnect with the RA path there that goes past Southgate Community Center. So had several recommendations just on sidewalks as well, to get connecting either together as sidewalks or to RA pathways that exist currently. An offshoot of the project that the clusters right around the bump out talked about was in a separate, in a longer term kind of project. They're looking really at sort of making the area heading south from the bump out all the way towards Fox Mill, kind of something called what we called the Pinecrest Greenway. So that what was once on a map going to be a road that connected all the way down towards Fox Mill, really just making it an environmental greenway path that would be up, would be kept up and would be used as more just a pedestrian nature trail and walk that is a little more formalized. And that is not part of our upfront current recommendation, but I know the school there and the surrounding clusters are very interested in moving that forward, but maybe as a little bit more of a longer term project. But these for Southgate Community Center. What's that?
After the ball field.
After the ball field and after the RA lighting on the pathway there that we've been talking about.
Pathway lighting.
But this was, we came together because of some safety issues and other things. And I think it was really neat. We met maybe once a month for about 4 months, maybe twice a month once, and really came together and chatted on Zoom about the different issues. Many of us had taken walks through all this area to really get a firsthand knowledge. And then it was nice to have all of the different groups with their own perspectives and their own backgrounds coming together. We had a lot of ideas, a lot of discussions, and we were able to boil it down to a one-page white paper that is available at the supervisor's office and for viewing. And again, it's not a white paper of what will be done, but it is I think a nice one-page white paper of what this community group, grassroots, came together and is recommending to FCDOT and BDOT for updates to that area to make it aesthetically better and better in terms of safety. With that, I'll close. And Karen, you are on the committee with us, so
yes,
you may have some things to add.
No, that's great. And thank you, Andy. The only thing I will add is that we recently, Larry and Supervisor Alcorn and I guess it was, and Jose and Shamali, that's that who it was?
Yeah.
went over there because Supervisor Alcorn wanted to see it firsthand, and we were sort of bouncing some ideas around for what could be done with that bump out space. But yeah, we are of course at the mercy of VDOT for a lot of the things that, you know, the working group is hoping will happen. But anyway, it was a lot of fun and interesting to be involved in that. So I just wanted to let you folks know about another piece of Hunter's Woods Dogwood that things are going on there. Any questions or comments about that? Okay. Oh, I have. Is this a new comment I'm seeing? Mo Ferguson is asking if we want to keep track of Polo Field's activities. This is the best meeting to track. I don't. Thank you, Andy. I'm not sure I understand exactly that question. Mo, can you unmute or was this something that was submitted earlier?
Yeah, so I haven't attended too many meetings.
Oh, there
I
you
just wanted to
are.
make sure
Okay.
this was the right. This meeting also covers Polo Fields.
Of course. Well, Polo Fields is part of Hunter's Woods Dogwood. And this is an annual meeting. So there are a lot of other ways to track what's going on. If you're talking specifically about the GSI and traffic issues there, I mean, I would think the best thing to do would go on the supervisor's website and get the reports on what the comprehensive plan task force is up to. What are you talking specifically about? So I can answer your question more thoroughly than that.
We're just new to Reston, so just wanted to know where to go to listen to the board meetings and stuff like that.
Oh, well, okay. Have you been on our website yet?
Reston.org.
Reston.org. On the home page, there's a big button that says calendar of events, and if you click on that, it will give you all of the meetings and other events that are happening, and you can flip to, you know, month by month, year by year, back and forth, and all the Zoom links are on there. If you click on a particular meeting. That's the best place. And also you should subscribe to our weekly newsletter, RA News, because that will also give you a calendar of events for the coming week. And that's a good way to keep track.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you. And thank you. I'm very happy that someone new to Reston has joined us tonight.
Thanks.
Okay, any other questions, comments about anything?
Aaron, if this is Mike, if I could just throw in a couple of other tips for places where they can follow information about RA.
Sure.
Along with the website and RA News, the subscriptions on the homepage, if you'd like to subscribe to the Friday morning newsletter. I'd also encourage you to follow us on social media. Reston Association is on Facebook and Instagram and Twitter. So there's a number of places where you can follow us. All that information is available on the homepage of the RA website, Reston, www.reston.org.
Thank you, Mike.
I would be remiss if I don't put a plug in for our YouTube channel.
Yes, yes. Many of our all of the board meetings and the DRB meetings, many of our other meetings, this will be there on YouTube. If you go to Reston Association YouTube and click on the videos button, you will see videos of meetings going back years. So that's good. And our board meetings are on generally the third Thursday of the month. That varies sometimes because of holidays. Fourth Thursday, sorry. Yeah, it varies sometimes because of holidays. They move up a week sometimes, but In fact, we have one coming up this Thursday at 6:30. And again, you can find either on RA News or on any of the platforms we just mentioned the Zoom link to that. And be sure to take a nap if you can, because they tend to be long. Okay. I want to talk before we conclude tonight. I want to talk about our facilities and amenities. Reston is now 60 or so years old, and many of our amenities are that old too. So what we're looking at is we're taking a close look at a lot of them. And what's at the forefront of that discussion right now, as we head into the next couple of months of more budget discussions, is what pools that may need repairing and renovation, which are those, and looking at their usage and what it is going to cost to get them to the point where they can reopen. Or do we want to look at possibly some other uses for those sites? So at the forefront of that right now, as you may have heard, is we're taking a close look at the Shadowwood pool. And, board members can sit around and toss opinions back and forth, but for something of this magnitude, we really need the community to lead us. And so our Parks and Recreation Advisory Committee, working with staff, is in the midst of launching an extensive community outreach effort to get us the information we need from the community. Shadow is a pool that has been closed because it needs upwards of $200,000 worth of repair. So we're looking at, do we put that kind of money into it, or do we look at doing something else fun, and which would be a wonderful amenity for Reston for that space. So this is what we want to hear from the community. There was a survey, an online survey that was just launched on Friday through RA News. And I want to tell you that this coming weekend, there will be 2 in-person open house type events at the site of the pool on Saturday at 11 o'clock and on Sunday at 1 o'clock. And that will be followed by a virtual engagement session, sort of a town hall session about this, Sunday evening at 7:30. This is for, we want to hear from people throughout Reston, specifically the people who are in the Shadowwood pool vicinity, to see what they want. Do you want your pool fixed? Do you want something else there instead? So we're really excited that this effort is being launched, and very much look forward to the feedback that we get. And later in October, the board is going to be having a joint session with Parks and Recreation Advisory Committee to discuss some of the findings, so that we can proceed from there. But this is the kind of thing that we're going to be faced with, for the next several years, as these amenities start to need more and more repair. So we need to decide what to do with that. So I encourage anybody and everybody to participate, certainly on the online survey, and if you can make it to either of the live events this weekend or the virtual event Sunday night, the more people we hear from, the more informed a decision the board can make on these things. So,
Aaron, John Farrell has his hand up.
I had a feeling John's hand might go up around now. Yes, John, John is the vice chair of the Parks and Recreation Advisory Committee, and I bet he has something to add.
So thank you, Julie. Thank you, Karen. Julie Bitzer is the chairman, and she's off on vacation. She asked me to duck in tonight in case the issue came up. So this past weekend, we had a bunch of volunteers who distributed 1,700 door knockers on the 16 clusters that are around Shadowwood Pool. And we've already had 193 people respond to the survey, which is astounding. It's a great response level. And so on the door knocker is a QR code that people can just use to go. And we also have the website address in case you don't like using QR codes. So we've had to put this together in a really short time frame, because between when the board adopted it and when a report is expected. I want to give a real shout out to Laura Kowalski. Unbelievable effort over the last 10, 12 days to pull this all together, and several members of the Parks and Recreational Advisory Committee. So really gratified with how with the volunteers who came forward to distribute the door knockers. I dropped off 150 myself, but Shadowwood condominium, that's 450 units that somebody had to climb those stairs and drop off those, and we did it. The survey is only 14 questions. It takes about 6 minutes to fill out the survey. The survey is available in English and in Spanish. The door knockers were printed in both English and Spanish. And thank you, Mike Leone, for getting a high quality door knocker so that if it rained, the ink doesn't run and the wind won't blow them away. So we're looking forward. The survey will be open till November 1st. And we're looking forward to, I think this is really the first time since I've lived in Reston that RA has done such an intense job of trying to reach out to a community around an amenity to get feedback. I mean, this is what people have hoped for as far as transparency and outreach and open communication. So we're really excited. We'll look forward to see. Oh, and we're going to have shaved ice on Saturday and Sunday, so people can refresh themselves while they're coming to learn some more about it. Karen, thank you.
Thank you very much, John. And I'm sorry, I apologize for neglecting to mention the door hangers. I'm glad you did. Yes, I see Larry Butler has his hand up.
Laura just texted me, we're at 212 now. So
wow.
200.
That's fabulous. And it's only Monday.
Mm-hmm.
That's really great. Okay. All right. Are there any other questions, comments?
Karen, there were a couple of questions in the chat.
Question, okay.
I believe the first one was by Lynn, asking about storm drainage.
Okay.
I've unmuted her.
Oh yeah, there's a whole bunch of chats here. Okay, let me go back to the next one.
Okay, Karen.
Yes, Lynn.
So the storm drainage is about, there is a storm drainage sort of retention pond just off Sunrise Valley Drive. And in the 15, 16 years I lived here, it was never a problem. The last 2 years, it sort of blocks with regularity. And as a result, then the trails can flood. And at this time of the year, we get lots of mosquitoes and everything else. Mike McNamara is great. When I call him, he comes and takes care of it. But I think it's a county responsibility. So I'm more interested in how we get a long-term fix, because at the minute I'm the canary in the coal mine who calls up every time the water stops running away and says, okay, it needs clearing again. So, how do we tackle these sorts of things?
That's a Larry Butler question.
Nice pass, Karen.
Yeah, I think
I am not a storm drainage expert by any stretch.
It may come down to the design and whether the design has to change. a lot of those storm drains were initially put in just to literally do storm drainage, and then a lot of them were retrofitted to do nutrient removal as part of the county's MS4 permits. And when you have a stormwater facility that does retention and even some detention to drop nutrients out, they tend to stack up more water, particularly if they have debris and so forth. So I'm not sure exactly which one. There's a couple of them over in Polo Fields. One large one, in fact, back by the ball field, former ball field, I should say. But if Mike's aware of that, let me find out from him specifically, and we may be able to call the county to find out, what else they can do. But a lot of times it specifically has to do with the design of the facility.
Okay. I mean, because something has clearly changed, because it never used to happen, and now it happens with regularity, and the water just gets higher and higher, and then you have a big storm and the trail floods as well. So quite apart from, I don't want my neighbors all spraying their yards against mosquitoes and killing everything else that exists as well.
So the next question from Paul Levine is, does RA manage the Sunrise Valley Nature Park? This park was built by Reston Land to mitigate wetlands removal elsewhere in Reston. The park is next to the previously mentioned townhouse development. We do not. we would like to. Right?
Okay, so that was never turned over to RA from the.
There's a long history there. That.
Oh, I know.
Yeah.
Goes back
The short story, Paul, is that back when West Terra, which took over from Mobile Land Development back in the early 2000s, there was intent to deed at least the responsibility and access and so forth to Reston Association, but that deed never got executed. So there was intent, and I think it's one of those things that fell through the cracks as West Terra was getting out of town. So it is now wholly owned by the property owner up on, I think it's Mass Mutual, up on the, the two buildings up on Monroe Street.
Okay.
Obviously it is in pretty bad shape. They're not actively managing it. We've approached them a number of times about, granting us sort of access and maintenance. The problem with that is then you're spending member funds on property that we don't even own and may not ever own. So it is kind of an ongoing saga. I don't have a good answer for you other than we don't own it, and we do hope that it stays in perpetuity and can at some point in the future be managed better than it has been managed.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thanks for the question. Julie Doherty is asking, does RA keep usage statistics on pools, parks, ball fields, etc.? Yes, we do. We do have statistics on pools, which is why we're looking at some of the underused ones as we're looking at all of our amenities right now. Parks and ball fields, I don't know. I know tennis, we are keeping, tennis and pickleball, we are keeping usage. We are gathering usage data on those. Larry, do you know about parks and ball fields?
We do. With ball fields, I mean, unless they're scheduled under contract with us to, Reston baseball or Reston soccer, we don't go out and track the usage of them. We know how many players they have on the overall rosters and so forth, but we do not track the usage specifically on those. You hit the nail on the head with pools and tennis, and then of course it's corroborated with the pool and tennis pass sales or recreation pass sales.
Right. Joanne Levine, Polo Field is located far from some of the amenities that are convenient to other areas of Reston. We pay the same dues as everyone else. What can be done? We could build you a pool.
That would be great.
But from my understanding is Polo Fields didn't want a pool. And that's why.
Well, there's a
why there
long
isn't one.
story behind that I don't really even remember all the details of, but we were promised some things that we never got. And here we are. And I've lived here in Polo Fields in 2 different houses that I've owned since 1984. So talk about a long saga. That's what we've lived with here.
Joanne, this is Larry. Do you recall when Reston Land Corporation approached Polo Fields about supporting additional density next door?
Not really.
That was the trade-off. Reston Land said, "We'll build you a pool if you allow us to change some of the property that is actually currently Polo Fields into higher density for townhouses and so forth." And the existing residents did not want that.
I don't remember that at all. It's interesting though.
So, and then Polo Fields is one of the only areas where Restaurant Association developed the amenities. So we worked, and maybe you were involved with that. We worked for a couple of years with a task force, and we walked all the properties and where should the pathways go, where should the tot lots go, where should the multi-purpose courts go, we should have a central park with a tennis court and all that. So that was all a result of a very, very active task force of RA staff and members of Polo Fields at that time. And so it was one of those unusual ones where the developer didn't build it. They basically gave us funds on a per lot basis and said, "You build it." And so that's what we did.
Well,
so just a little history.
Yeah, I don't know what can be done about. I don't believe anything can be done about adjusting assessments based on proximity to amenities. That would take. I don't know what that would take.
Yeah, our current deed language does not permit that. Would have to be something ultimately considered in a referendum, the next one of which will be 2025, 2026.
26, yeah. So don't have any other answers for that one. Okay, if no one else has any questions, I'll call on you, Lynn. But since you've spoken multiple times, I just want to make sure that someone who hasn't spoken yet gets a chance. And I don't see any other hands, so go ahead, Lynn.
I mean, I actually wanted to follow up on what Joanne said, because I think, yeah, we don't have a pool and that is what it is. But I think more broadly, I think we often feel like an orphan child over here. So, I have been to, I think, almost all of the comprehensive plan meetings. And it's been very interesting that, they spent more time discussing potential trees being felled on Reston Parkway than they spent talking about eminent domain for a GSI at our junction. In fact, they didn't spend any time talking about eminent domain. And then when I looked at a draft of a report that I did get to see part of, there were discussions about, for example, Wheelie Avenue between Sunrise Valley and Sunset Hills, the aesthetics of that, how you walk that, how you cross. There's never been any discussion of how we cross Fairfax County Parkway, or the fact, for example, that we can't walk from our neighborhood to the town center, which for me is perfectly possible. I find that a reasonable walk, but I'm likely to be killed trying to cross the eastbound ramp of the Dulles Toll Road. It's absolutely impossible. There's no line of sight and cars come at you at 50 miles an hour. So it's like, death wish, Reston Town Centre? No, I think I won't bother. And given what Boston Properties has done to Reston Town Centre, I'm not driving there in the week. I mean, the sidewalk on Sunrise Valley is a death trap because the utility companies come dig it up, don't really repair it. And now FC.or V. decided they don't know who owns it anymore, so nobody's doing anything to it. So, I mean, I think there's a number of things that often make us feel that in the broader Fairfax County RA, we're an orphan child. And in fact, the previous CEO of Reston Association actually said at a meeting that she supported the GSI because we should actually send all the traffic onto Fairfax County Parkway, because GSIs on Reston Parkway would fundamentally change the nature of Reston. And I had to stand up and say, excuse me, I live in Reston, and in actual fact, that would fundamentally change our quality of life too. So I think, you know, what Joanne's saying in a sense is, yeah, we don't have a pool, but actually there are lots of other areas where we feel like maybe we're a little overlooked and people forget we're actually part of Reston.
What comes to my mind, Lynn, what is, you know, like you talked about the you know, Wheelie Sunrise area. There is a citizens group that formed called Save Our Sunrise over that whole thing. Maybe that's what Polo Fields needs to do is, you know, become a squeakier wheel. You know, we know you're there, but you know, maybe you know, and I know that you did have sort of a citizens organization before that sort of fell apart. But you know, just keep talking, keep talking and gathering more voices is what I would suggest. Okay. Was this from Mo again? I think there's a new paved trail back in that same area that runs from Herndon Monroe Metro up to Monroe. Is that maintained by RA? And are there any plans for lights on it? Is that ours, Larry, or the county's?
It is not. It's I think it was done in partnership with the landowner and the county. My understanding is that it was going to be lighted if it's not already. I have not personally been on it, but I heard from somebody, maybe it was Mark Malcolm, that said there were lights on it.
He's waving his hand.
Yep. So, but it's not RA's.
It definitely is not always. It was part of the effort for the Ian Apartments and what's being built behind it to be a walk way down to the Herndon Monroe station. And yes, those there, the electricity has been turned on for the lights. The majority of that trail is actually on Board of Supervisor property, adjoining the property that is Massachusetts Mutual, and then also adjoining the property that's owned by JBD Smith. To your question, if you're going to have any retail, it can be in the ground floor of the building that JBG Smith owns, but Pulte is going to have its 40 townhomes built on that western portion, and Polo Fields was engaged to not have it built to the high rises that could have been done according to the comprehensive plan. Actually, the architect that did the townhomes also lives in Polo Fields, lives in Pipestone on Tournament, just for giving a little bit of giggles in history. Anything else?
And Karen, if I could, there's another comment here about the spray fountain that often doesn't work.
Yeah.
We have in the capital asset fund proposal for the board some resources. I can't remember exact $10,000 or $15,000 to basically replace that switch. The problem is it's got a bad switching unit and we need to run direct power. It's operated on batteries right now, so it's a little bit problematic. So we're talking about either doing a solar fix or hardwiring electric to it. So anyways, that is in for the board's consideration.
Thank you, Larry. I'm looking to see if we have more comments. Thank you for stopping the skyscraper, Mo Ferguson says. Rick Hamilton says, shout out to RA for painting stop signs on our 2 trail crossings. Yeah, okay. And there's another raised hand. Let me see who that is. Lynn, that looks like you again.
I think it was a thumbs up from Lynn.
Oh, it was a thumbs up. That wasn't a raised hand. Okay.
Yeah. No, it's not the hand, it was the thumbs emoji.
Okay.
Because I like the stop signs too.
Okay. Well, that might be a good note to end on, a thumbs up. I like that. If there's nothing else, wow, this was great. And thank you so much for coming out, everybody. And we'll look forward to next year's, but please, stay in touch in the meantime. And if there's anything we can do for you, you know how to reach us. And I know you Polo Fields folks sometimes feel like we forget about you, but we don't. We know you're there, and we appreciate hearing from you. And that's about all I can say to that. So let me see. Oh, and I think, oh yeah, here we go. There's my contact information. Thank you, Mike and Sean. And again, the South Lakes listening session is going to be on September 30th at 6:30 p.m., as I said earlier. And Jennifer Juszczuk, our South Lakes District Representative, will be leading that. October 4th is the at-large. And please don't forget, if you have some time this weekend, come by Shadowwood Pool. Thank you all, and have a wonderful evening.
All right. Good night, everybody.
Good night.